Because I was sitting in the airport and I thought I'd buy my first copy of Men's Health, and I haven't bought a copy of Men's Health in about probably 5-6 years. But it was like a staple. I was subscribed to it back in the day. I used to read it, absorb every little bit of information that came out of it. And I was reading it this time with a whole different lens. Because obviously 5-6 years ago and plus, I was much more susceptible to a lot of the myths that we've been talking about. However, yesterday when I was reading it, the article that caught my eye was 3 inches of arms in 4 weeks. And I was obviously very intrigued by this proposal. So I flicked through to find the article, and they said that they've promised 3 inches in 4 weeks just by doing 5 sets of pull-ups, 5 sets of rows, 5 sets of dips, and 5 sets of push-ups. And I thought, what have we been doing wrong all this time? Like this is all I needed to do to get 3 inches of extra arm muscle. And I read it and just laughing because I was like, this is obviously not going to happen. But it just goes to show this is the biggest selling men's magazine out there, and they're promoting 3 inches in 4 weeks. Like it's not gonna bode well for people reading it who don't have that education, who don't have that BS filter like we do. But it just got me thinking of how these things still go on. I thought this stuff was a thing of the past, but front cover 3 inches in 4 weeks. There's a couple other claims on there as well that were pretty crazy. But yeah, it just goes to show that we've got a lot of work to do.
Surely there must be like a disclaimer somewhere, though. Surely it must be like a disclaimer in like fine print saying this might not happen in most cases. Like it has to be somewhere, just for them to be able to cover their bases. You know what I mean?
And you know what? I thought there'd be some like fancy protocol that I've not yet tried, and it was literally just 5 sets of pull-ups, 5 sets of dips, and I thought, and better yet, this is all done at home, so there's no resistance involved. It was literally just bodyweight workouts. It was like grow 3 inches at home, or like go to, and then the headline was like the arms race at home.
And when you put it in context as well, most of the people reading that 3 inches, that's probably like 25% of their arms already. Like put 25% extra on your arm in a month. But
I mean, I remember reading a rule back in the day. I was like, because I used to think you can grow an inch on your arms without doing anything else in terms of like body weight increases. But then I remember reading once it was like 1 inch per like 10 pounds of muscle. I think it's about right, isn't it? When you put it into context, 1 inch per every 10 pounds of muscle seems about right. So to grow 3 inches, you're talking about 30 pounds of muscle, which is probably what most people are going to put on in their lifetime. Then
purely just on the arms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And let alone 4 months. So no, 4 weeks. So yeah, just thought it was an interesting one. And then as Flick gone.
No, I think it's just it's no wonder really that people's expectations with what they can achieve then is just totally out of whack, really, isn't it? I think if that is the biggest selling magazine and it's been viewed as a creditable source, then people are going to read it and think you're inclined just to believe what it says if they're a creditable source, aren't you? So you think, what, and if I do commit to this, why wouldn't I gain 4 inches of my arms, 3 inches of my arm, whatever it is, which is the scary thing, really, isn't it?
Well, I've got the magazine here. On the front it says "Fat Arm Finishes. Pack on size from your living room." Oh. And then let me see if they got the disclaimer, because I don't know. I have a feeling they do. It's called and then the contents page it says "The House of Guns." So it's drawing more and more. Like I was getting really excited to open this up, and then as I did, nothing. It says, win the arms race at home. No iron, no problem. Add 3 inches to your biceps. Oh, not even the arms, just your biceps. In just 4 weeks with this push and pull bodyweight ladder from Elite PT. And I won't say his name. No disclaimer. All you have to do, here's what the quick intro says. You might be waiting until the pandemic is over to re-up your gym membership, but there's no reason why you can't go large in the meantime. This at-home upper body bulk up requires no dumbbells. Its push-pull format ensures that one muscle group works while the other rests, so you can squeeze 150 reps from a single workout for supersized benefits. Complete 10 reps of all 6 exercises before resting and going again, taking off 2 reps with each new round. Think big. And then the 6 exercises are pull up, pike press up, inverted row, press up, chin up, triceps dip. And then it has a big picture of a chair and says, get out of your chair for some real home improvement, which is going to be the tricep dips. So yeah, people's expectations are completely skewed, aren't they? I mean, they read things like that.
Yeah. And that's assuming everyone can do perfect pike push-ups, which I'm still yet to see. Perfect chin-ups, perfect dips, perfect push-ups. Yeah, okay. But again, like you can just send your videos to Men's Health and they'll respond, right? They'll give you feedback on how to perform the exercises, on how to train, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Honestly, the contents page of this is quite something. Like, I read it and I thought I'd captivated. Like, I thought there's a lot of stuff here. I need to get involved.
Titles, very clever titles.
Yeah, like this one here. Unbox new strength. Employ the shiny box press to pump up your true potential with every rep. I'm thinking, what's this shiny box press? So click on
the problem with those magazines, though, is if you look through the contents, there's about 10 different programs in there, which are each claiming to be the magic secret. It's like you can't even stick with the same arm program for a month because by the time you do, the next one's already come out that you need to be doing.
But Ivan, you've been looking at you focus a lot on flexibility. You're missing this though. So say you need to think outside the box for new mobility. See out the unusual year of training with the shiny box press, a mobility enhancing upper body pump that will really stretch your potential. Now here's the.
So what is the box press?
Well, this is what it is. It looks like a press while you're like in a half frog position.
Jesus.
So anyone watching?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So just for anyone listening, not watching this on YouTube, you're basically like in a, I don't know, what would you describe that position?
Like a half pigeon.
Yeah.
Pigeon stretch. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're just pressing a dumbbell in the air, doing a shoulder press.
Yeah.
And then
if it's a kettlebell, it might be different. Might be better.
Oh yeah, there's more mobility if it's a kettlebell, apparently.
And then at the bottom it says what you'll gain is a deeper squat, supple strength. So not normal strength, but supple strength.
I'm not really after normal strength. I'm after that supple strength for the moment.
And then a ripped core, and then big arms. They've thrown that in as well. So.
Yeah. How can you not get captivated by that though?
I know. Like, honestly, it's incredible. Like, you gotta give it to them on this.
Imagine if we were writing it though, it'd just be like, stay with the same program as last month, be consistent, send your coach videos.
It'd be out of business.
It wouldn't be like the arms race or any of that. It would just be keep going, just slow it down slightly.
I mean, they've got.
Remember last month's edition? Do the same thing.
I mean, they got a 2-page spread just on like yoga mats, and they've got like a whole review on like the performance, design, and ease of use. And it's got like upgrade your home stretch, raise your ground game with our pick of the best yoga mats to hasten your post-training recovery. It's like if you stretch on a different mat, you're gonna get a different result.
Man, I've got a headache already.
I mean, it's like it's rating the level of like cushion, grip, portability, performance, design. So yeah, it's got all sorts of stuff in there. There's actually another big myth there that I thought was actually quite. I don't know if it was quite misleading, but it said like you can also ease off as you put less pressure on your body. You can also ease off the late night casein shakes. They might prime you physically, but a few weeks off can help you mentally. There's a hormone in our gut called CCK that aids protein absorption. If we eat too late, it's only partially broken down into CCK4, which has been linked to panic attacks. So skip the protein hit to set your mind at rest. I think that's actually quite misleading, isn't it? Like that's actually quite dangerous advice.
Oh, it's just completely inaccurate advice. It's like taking the whole insulin thing and just blowing it out of context, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it said another one. It's like, yeah, if you haven't taken a rest day off, take off 24-hour break and reach for a cold beer rather than a kettlebell can help you lower your risk of heart disease. A great excuse to put your training plans on hold. And then they quoted a study in there as well, just to back it up and make it more legit. So according to a study in nutrition, metabolism, and cardiovascular diseases.
So what they'll have done though, there'll be a study that shows that if you go out once a week to socialize, and then you potentially happen to have a drink like a beer or something, you're less likely to have heart disease or something like that. It'll be some obscure study like that, and then they've just tried to link it with, on your rest day, make sure you go out for a beer. It's one of those things of, just finding this minutiae thing and then just trying to match it to a point that sounds interesting, isn't it? Which is exactly the same with don't eat protein late. They've found this one thing in some study and then try to connect all the dots.
Yeah, and if anything, protein is the one thing that is probably the best for you to have before bed out of all the macros. You know what I mean? On so many levels. But yeah,
there's something to be said about talking around like cherry picking studies, because magazines like this, a lot of claims you see online, they will look at individual studies like that and not connect dots. And they'll look at an individual, very specific study design whereby, like you said, they literally just looked at one variable and they'll use it to justify a whole thing. And we've seen so many diets come out of this and so many training plans come out of this where the one little thing has cascaded into a whole plan. People make products off like one research study. And that's probably what some of the most like dangerous advice or like just pointless mess added into what's already a crowd of mess.
And when so much is going on in your body, you can look at this one minutiae thing and you think, oh, that might make a difference. But when you factor into everything else that's going on, quite often it doesn't have any meaningful effect. And so the fact that you're then basing a diet or training program around it is just completely flawed. But obviously, if you look at one study that has a vague connection, it's very easy to sell, especially when you hype it up with some of those titles as well.
Yeah. These titles, it's getting me inspired to write certain things, So, yeah, it's like they got a whole thing here on. Here's one you like. Massage the fat loss statistics. At a time of the year when weight gain seems inevitable, we've sniffed out a rather luxurious way to keep your gut in check, and it's basically different oils that might help your gut. So it says, actually help your gut through massage. So gratifyingly, scientists may have found a soothing alternative. Book in for a COVID-secure massage and ask your therapist to add a few drops of grapefruit essential oil to the lotion. That might sound far too decadent to be a certified weight loss technique, but Japanese scientists have discovered the beneficial effects of the scent of grapefruit. In a rodent study, so not even human, but in rats, they recorded electroactivity in the nerve pathways to the animal's fat tissue and observed that the smell seemed to activate good brown fat, the type that breaks down blood sugar and fat molecules to create heat and maintain body temperature. Furthermore, a component of grapefruit essential oil called limonene was found to suppress appetite. If you're skeptical about whether these effects will translate to humans, fret not. All it takes to get the fat-burning mince pie limiting benefits is to lie on a massage table. All you have to do is lie on a massage table. Another study published in the Journal of Korean Academy of Nursing found that people who massaged grapefruit oil onto their bellies twice a day for 6 weeks experienced a significant decrease in abdominal fat and waist circumference. This means a relaxing session on the massage table could help you recover your physique as well as your senses. Nothing not to be sniffed at. We think you'll agree. So now they're getting people to rub grapefruit oil.
The thing is though, there will probably be off that study a diet that's designed where before each meal you either sniff a grapefruit or you rub it on your stomach and then you can just eat what you want. Like that's the kind of thing we're talking about, isn't it?
Well, here's more. Right? So essential oils to help boost your performance, speed up recovery, and burn fat. Find the scent that will fire up your goals. So mint. If you rub mint into your hands before your next park run and breathe it in deeply, it can potentially increase your endurance by improving lung function, according to the Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition. Eucalyptus This oil can help reduce the pain and inflammation associated with a variety of conditions. Helpful with those with back pain. I've heard of that one, but I don't know if it's actually gonna, if it's a placebo or if it's actually gonna do anything. And then orange, apply this to tired muscles after a tough workout, could help prevent the buildup of lactic acid and speed up recovery. Another study put it in there.
I would love to actually, like go on and actually, maybe we should do this. Go and actually look at try and find the actual study to see, if it's just some little line in the abstract or something, or whether there is actually, solid evidence behind it.
It's just bananas. And this is what people are exposed to on a day-to-day basis. So now you can probably get people around there rubbing grapefruit oil on their bellies and hoping that they're gonna get leaner from that.
Yeah, well, even like a lot of the stuff with the essential oils is a lot of it is placebo, right? People automatically think that lavender is like a calming scent, when in fact you've just been told your whole life that lavender is a relaxing smell prior to you even sniffing lavender. And that way, because you think it, you will just automatically start to calm yourself down. You know what I mean? There is no like special properties within lavender that actually make you calm down or reduce anxiety. It's just a trained thing that you've always associated lavender with, relaxation. It's just an association. It's not, there's no actual physiological benefit to it.
I actually went for a massage on Saturday. I'm just thinking now, damn, I wish I'd brought some grapefruits for me, because I'd be looking shredded right now.
Yeah, you missed out there.
Yeah. She did actually. I've never had a massage on my stomach before, but she said, "Do you want me to do your stomach?" And I was kind of like, I was pretty out of it by this point, because she'd done like legs and back. I was like, okay, yeah, fine. And it was quite weird because you can't really get into your stomach. It just kind of like, obviously, you just can't like push in as much. But maybe if she had some grapefruit juice on there, at least she could have rubbed that in. And
yeah, the massage on the stomach thing's weird. I've only ever had that in I think it was like Turkey or Morocco or something like that. And then they're like, they start by rubbing your belly like up and down. It was the strangest thing because I'd never experienced that before, and it just felt uncomfortable at the beginning. But after a while, you're like, okay, it feels all right. But I don't understand the benefit of it in terms of from a massage point of view, because you can't actually get into it to.
Yeah, I think a lot of the research around massage really is just showing that it's just the human contact from someone else that's relaxing, rather than the physical kind of breakdown of anything. It's and I think it links in a lot with what we talked about before in terms of mobility stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of the recovery and relaxation and positive feelings that you get from it is just from that sensation of being touched by another human, really. And yeah, you're in a relaxed environment, you can unwind, and a lot of it is linked to that rather than any actual physical change.
Yep.
I was lost for words. What to say today?
I hear this stuff like every single week, or it's like, should I get a Theragun? Should I get this? Like people spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on like gadgets and stuff like that. And the thing is, it's because they're surrounded by information like this. You know what I mean? It's not pretty, or it doesn't sell telling someone who's got an injury, actually, you just need to manage your load better and you need to improve your technique. You don't need a Theragun. You don't need this. You don't need a special stretch. You don't need a masseuse rubbing grapefruit oil on you. You just need to train better and smarter. But that doesn't sell, right? That's not pretty. That's just like, what do you mean my technique's bad? What do you mean I'm not training properly? What do you mean I'm not managing my load effectively? Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. That's what's causing these issues to flare up. That's it.
But that's all the stuff that's linked to making real change, really actually focusing on your technique, whether it's diet, actually changing your eating habits. Whereas it's a lot easier to not make true change and just add on a little bit of smelling a grapefruit or a certain stretch or whatever it is. It's these little add-ons are what's been sold as the magic trick, because they obviously come across as a lot easier than having to make real big behavioral changes, whether it's in the gym or in the kitchen or wherever you are.
It's a quick fix with minimal effort. You go see a chiropractor that cracks your back. Fantastic, I'm fixed. No, you're not. Like you just relieved a little bit of pain temporarily, which is going to come back in about 3 hours. So you didn't really fix anything. You just had a temporary feeling of euphoria because someone touched you. Go get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or something. That might be.
Oh, God. So now you're gonna get people.
We're gonna-
You're gonna ask. People are gonna be asking their partners, "Can you rub grapefruit oil on me?" Tonight?" That's the new Christmas present that's just entered everyone's wish list. Get leaner with grapefruit oil.
Yeah.
I'm a bit lost for words as well.
I think just coming back to the initial article on the arms, though, I think it really does. That stuff is really what feeds these unrealistic expectations when it comes to muscle gain. I think not only these unfounded kind of I guess claims about fast rates of muscle growth, but then also combined, I think another massive thing is what you see on social media with so many either professional bodybuilders or social media, I guess, fitness influencers, using performance enhancing drugs, which is up to them, but that doesn't necessarily come across in all of their posts. And so I think when the average person looks at them, they see their physique, they might see the change in their physique over a period of time, or to hear about their progress or the amount of weight they're lifting, and they don't necessarily realize what they've done to then get to that position. And sometimes the changes you'll see are just lies as well in themselves. But it's very easy to see a professional bodybuilder looking amazing, potentially with filters as well, but amazing on social media, and then thinking, what, I'm willing to commit to the gym. I'll do 4 sessions a week for 6 months, and I should look like that. And when you're surrounded by magazines such as what we just gone over, that's only backing up that mentality as well, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't understand that these guys, not only guys and girls, not only have they got top tier genetics to grow muscle, but they are taking copious amounts of drugs. And yeah, as Ed said, they don't share this information. Number one, because it's illegal in a lot of countries. So if they were to say that they were taking gear or steroids, they could potentially be arrested. So that's one motivator to not say anything. Number two, a lot of them do rely on their physiques, and a lot of them do rely on you purchasing their programs because you think that you're going to look like them if you buy Mike O'Hearn's program and eat duck eggs. It's and again, because he's selling it, and you see him and you're like, oh my God, that's American Gladiator, natural for life. Yep, I can definitely achieve that. How inspirational. But yeah, it all comes down to those unrealistic expectations and thinking that just because an IFBB pro looks the way that they do, that if you were to do the same thing that they do, then you're going to look exactly like them as well, which is just unfortunately not the case, especially in this world where genetics is a massive component to how someone looks, you know what I mean? And I think we've discussed this a couple of weeks ago as well on the podcast, but yeah, and it's magazines like Men's Health, or other magazines that perpetuate this idea. And again, they'll have people on the cover that again is unrealistic for a lot of people. A lot of it's been touched up, a lot of it's been modified. And even for photo shoots of people, even if they were like, yeah, this did add 3 inches to my arms, you can manipulate a lot in like a day before an actual shoot to make your arms appear like they are that much bigger temporarily by water loading, creatine, or whatever manipulations that you want to do. You can give this illusion for a very, very short amount of time, which would technically be, yeah, my arms are 3 inches bigger than what they were cold, flat a few weeks ago. And now they're under pump. You've just trained them ridiculously with high reps. You've loaded carbohydrates, creatine, water, salt, all these things to make your arms 3 inches bigger. But that is not going to last at all. That's going to come down within the next hour or day once you go back to normal,
Well, even then, even with all those manipulations, 3 inches is a stretch.
I think that's another thing, isn't it? It needs to be put into kind of relative terms as well, because I think some of the people who are proponents of these things are huge bodybuilders. So maybe they've already got 20-inch arms.
Yeah.
So adding an inch for them, that's like a 20th of their normal arm size, can potentially happen with a good pump or something like that. Whereas like a 20th of a normal person's arm size is so much less, because I don't know what the average person is, but what is it like, probably a 10-inch arm maybe? So that's a doubling. That's double the amount in terms of relative terms if you were both to add an inch. So I think that's another thing that can get forgotten.
With the gear thing, I get a lot of people sending me pictures like, oh, I've been looking at this guy's Insta, looking at this guy's Insta. This is the kind of physique I want. I just don't feel like I'm making the same progress as this person. And outside of all the comparison syndrome stuff we talked about the other episode, I think the gear stuff like really needs to be discussed, because I still don't think people understand either telltale signs for someone on gear, because that's probably something we should, because I think we can tell when someone's on gear or not. And if we get it wrong, it's probably, it's very rare we'll get that wrong, because it's just very clear, isn't it, if someone's on gear. So we should probably talk about telltale signs someone's on gear, but also just that most people who are selling their products because they're for their physique, which is probably the shortest game you could probably play in this world, is they're all on gear. There's very few that are actually natural. And if they are natural, they're probably just looking bigger on camera, because you can look bigger on camera. But if you break down their stats, they'll probably be along the lines that we always talk about with how heavy will you be when you're lean. So anyone claiming to be, anyone who's claiming to be over 85 kilos ripped, or 85 kilos plus ripped, even 80 kilos plus ripped, most likely going to be on something. 80 kilos ripped, like, depends if they're tall, they might be able to do that. But outside of that, 85 plus, I'd say, is guaranteed they're on gear.
Yeah. As a natural, you can either be shredded or big. Pick one.
What do you want to be? Like, you touched on the illusion of looking bigger when you're leaner comes into play, because behind a camera, and I'm sure, if you look at a lot of people's photo shoots, if the average person guessed people's weight in each of those shoots, it'd often be vastly different to what they actually are, because as you reduce body fat, definition increases massively. And so in a photo shoot situation where you are very lean, in the photo, and there's no one else next to you to compare kind of size to, you do look much bigger than when you have higher body fat. And so again, that can just feed into it as well, because I think a lot of the time people are looking at these photos assuming the guy who's ripped at 70 kilos is actually standing there at 90 or 100 kilos.
Some of my photo shoot pictures, I look like a monster in them. And I'm only like 71 kilos in them, but you look huge, right? You get it close up, your veins are popping. It's a close-up shot, the right illusion. Like, you look massive.
Yeah, you put the t-shirt on and you've still got little pipe cleaners coming out the end of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's like after a bodybuilding show, you look big on your own, and then you put the t-shirt back on, and the t-shirt's just hanging off you because you're just skinny.
You disappear. Yeah. Even I'm pretty sure there was, like, I can't remember his name, but like a person who literally just won like one of the most prestigious natural bodybuilding comps. I think it was in America or something. He literally put a shirt on, and people just were like, is he an actual bodybuilder or is he dying? You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't tell the difference, right? Because he had a shirt on, but he took his shirt off and he was like, whoa, what is that? So yeah, it's the price you pay.
And that's often a big realization for clients when they join is, I want this certain look, which we can, most often not achieve potentially. But it's not going to come often at the body weight they expect. And, it can be up to, 20 kilos out a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think we've all spoken in the past how we thought we'd be a certain weight when lean, and then got lean the first time and realized we were nowhere close. And so it's just getting past that mental barrier or those expectations in line with what a certain body weight should look like, or what you should be. Because it is just such these arbitrary numbers, really, isn't it?
Yeah. You should never get to touch any sort of number. It just doesn't help. You know what I mean? Because your idea can be completely skewed about what that number should be. And that's going to be like a barrier to you getting to the shape of your life, because you think you have to be a certain number. And it's just not true at all. No one asks you what your weight is if you look good. You look good or not,
With the gear thing, outside of the scale weight, I think the ones I always spot are like the traps. Someone, like, for a guy especially, if they've got unusually big traps or like really round pop delts, for me those are like the big sort of differentiators between someone who's gear or not. I think it doesn't take a certain eye to be able to spot that, But when you start noticing these things, like the traps are usually a really big giveaway. I think because of the receptors. I think they've got a high density of androgen receptors there. And obviously, when you take androgens, external androgens, or hormones, those are going to respond really well. So traps are usually a big giveaway. Like when you see a woman with massive traps, you know that she's on it. Like, it's very clear on women, actually, more than obvious. Like, it's very obvious on women. Like if you see a woman, not natural, an enhanced female bodybuilder, you can just notice her traps. You're like, you never see a normal woman like that.
The face is always a giveaway though as well.
Yeah. Outside of that, the jawline and all that sort of stuff.
You don't really get past the head. You're like, oh yeah. But yeah, no, it's an interesting one because I think it's I don't think this podcast is about how to spot like a fake natty or whatnot, but it's always good to see where people came from as well, because there are people out there with like incredible genetics, like, and they were like jacked from 12 years old. You know what I mean? So, you know, there are some people out there who look like they could be 20 years old at 12 or 15. You know, so even people like Jeff Seed, you know, I'm assuming he's not natural now. Obviously, he's not going to give that 100%. But back in his younger days, you could tell that he was amazingly athletic. He was jacked, you know, for a kid his age, super strong, this and that. So you could tell like people about him would be very confused because they're like, well, he was always athletic. He was always really strong. And his gains weren't like crazy big, you know. But I think a telltale sign is people who stay completely shredded and continue to grow. You know, it's like, that doesn't happen, you know. And all the best naturals, you know, a lot of them do not stay lean. A lot of the time they spend a lot of time bulking, adding muscle, and then they'll shred down for a while for their shows, but then they'll get back into bulking. They're not shredded a lot of the time, unless they like retire later on and they just end up staying at like a leaner level. But even when they get to that level, they know themselves that they're not going to expect much development after that, you know.
Yeah,
I'm not aware of any natural bodybuilders who stay lean year round, because it's just not not productive for building muscle at those kind of levels. And in fact, when I think of most of them, they try and get out of that kind of very lean state very quickly, and then over the course of their off season will push up 15-20% above stage weight.
I mean, I know I sit at like 15-17% above stage weight. Like that's where I find like I'm best. I'm probably strongest about 20% actually. 20% above stage weight is when I'm strongest, 25 even. So yeah, completely agree. I think that's probably the big one. You hear that all the time. Oh, I've grown and stay lean. And it's like, no, this is not happening.
But when you do look on Instagram, you're seeing all of these people that you follow year round. They're very lean, and then they're talking about they're either lifting crazy weights or they're talking about how much weight they've gained. And this, I think, is another big thing with when drugs are in the equation as well. Weight gain can be so sudden, or so quick. The rate of weight gain can be so fast, but it's not all coming. You are going to build muscle tissue at a faster rate, but also some of these weight changes aren't going to be purely muscle. With some drugs, you're going to hold a lot more water and things like that. And so when you see these professional bodybuilders talking about gain 20 pounds in X amount of time, that might sound like a massive amount of weight, but one, it's not all muscle, and two, that's coming from the use of these of these drugs, which are potentially, you know, lean to greater water retention and other things like that. Whereas if you try and add on 20 pounds as a natural person within a month or 2 months, whatever it is, it's going to be very hard, but also it's going to be a huge amount of body fat with that.
Huge amount of body fat. Exactly. You know.
Yeah, I always say to people that want to build muscle, like I'm just using my own personal examples. Like every time I've tried to really build muscle, like I don't look like I'd even trained. Like I'm like 90 kilos. People have said to me in the past, are like I saw your pictures. I didn't realize you trained, because when I was like, you know, the body fat's so high, it just blurs the shape. You know, when you're really pushing it. And that's the reality of it, because you have to go to that next level in order to really progress. And if you look at the best natural bodybuilders, they always, especially in the early days, they accept higher levels of body fat. And as you get more and more advanced, you can get away. You're probably better off staying a little bit leaner than you used to. You don't need to be doing aggressive pushes just to build some extra muscle. But in your early days, if you've never done a proper cycle of building muscle. You have to push it, and it's not like comfortable. You're not going to look that great all the time. You're not going to be in shape by most people's standards. But the long game is that when you pull back in a couple of years' time, it'll be worth it. And you just got to keep that long-term view on it. And it's again, it's not sexy. It's quite boring actually. Sometimes it's even quite demoralizing because you think like you're doing all of this and you look worse than you did before. But that's just very normal, and that's just how your body looks when you've got more body fat, and it's also all part of the process. So if you can accept that, you're onto a winner.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between doing it that in like a controlled fashion versus just getting fat. Yeah. You're not advocating getting fat, unhealthily fat. There's a big difference between getting up to about 18-20% body fat versus getting up to 25-30%, because there is no more muscle building benefits at that higher body weight or body fat level, because a lot of the tissue that you are accruing after that point is going to be fat mass. There's no need for you to get that fat, but expecting embracing the fluff, or understanding that some body fat does have to come on for you to have a successful muscle building phase. You know what I mean? Again, like, even if you have the best top tier genetics to put on lean muscle, as they say, as we discussed the other day, it's you still have to put on some fat. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure the ratio for every kilo of body weight, this is just numbers off the top of my head, even like with the top tier genetics and people who are very insulin sensitive, it's like a 60-40 ratio. You know what I mean? So like 60 grams of muscle, or like 600 grams of muscle, 400 grams of fat, or whatever it is. That's sort of how the ratios will split on average across like a course of a good successful bulk. And that's being generous.
I've heard Dr. Scott Stevenson talk about 3 pounds gained, one of which could be muscle, which kind of falls in pretty close line with that. But again, I think he was referring to people using steroids. So I think that needs to be factored in as well.
I was gonna say, that's a really generous number.
Yeah.
What was that?
So with the 3 pound weight gain, that's also water weight, right? If you're taking gear, so a lot of that extra weight is also going to be water weight.
Yeah. He was just talking about just body weight as a total, total mass. But yeah, he was referring to people on steroids. So I think if you're not enhanced, then you need to accept that your ratio of muscle to weight is going to be less favorable.
I'll say for like most people, it's probably like 1 pound every like 5 pounds of fat. Like, it's even low. It's really low, isn't it? The ratio you mentioned, Ivan, is probably like cream of the crop.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Cream of the crop. That's top.
Yeah, that's top tier. So yeah. Again, for those with us who do have those average genetics, you're looking at about maybe 5 grams of muscle for 95 grams of fat. 20. I think that's about right.
To be honest, like, it probably is somewhere like 10 to 20%. I'd say it's like that.
I know, but that can come off later on. You know what I mean? Like, and then you can hold on to that muscle that you built. So fat can come off easier when you need it to, right? And it's much harder to build muscle. It's much harder to build muscle than it is to lose body fat. So
yeah, 10 20%, and then you got to hold it for a while as well. You can't just gain that 10 20%, which you won't even know as well. That's the annoying thing, is you won't even know you're gaining muscle. You just got to have trust that it's happening, and the only way you can do it is through your logbook and videos, and make sure that your progressions are coming with good form, and you're eating enough food and doing it over long enough time. That these sorts of things are like markers, but you're never going to really know. And that's another like sort of not annoying thing, but it's a frustration that most people have. Like I've had that. We've all probably been there, where you get frustrated, like, oh, am I actually building muscle, or am I just wasting my time? And I always say to people that if you're in a calorie surplus, you're training like you're training really, really hard, you're gaining strength on your key lifts, you're probably going to be doing something right. And then you just got to give it time and have faith that it's going to work.
Yeah, that's all you have to measure, though, really.
And I think that's is a good enough justification. I think, if your logbook's increasing, you've been on the same program for a prolonged period of time, then after that first initial period where that first 2 to 4 weeks of easy progress going to come from neurological efficiency, so improvements for your nervous system, and helping you lift more. Once you've passed that initial period, most of your lift progressions are then going to come from gaining muscle. And so as long as you, like you said, are in a surplus of calories, then as long as your logbook is moving in the right direction, I feel like you can be very confident that you are gaining muscle. But this is where not just looking at the scale is so important, because yeah, you're thinking, oh, I'm bulking or I'm in investment phase or whatever it is. I want the scale weight to be moving up. But if you look back over the last 2 months of your training, and you're still, like, you actually did a great post on this the other day, Akash, you're still lifting exactly the same weight for the same reps. You know, each of your sessions, you're doing 20 kilos for 3 sets of 12. You know, your effort levels are the same level. There's been no progress with your training. Then any weight gains can't be muscle, because you haven't applied that stimulus for your body, to build that muscle. Your body's not just going to build muscle for fun. You need to provide a need for it. And so as much as the scale is a good indicator, the logbook has to be the primary indicator, because without that stimulus, the surplus is just making you fat.
Yep.
And then for people who never want to do a cycle, like for example, an investment cycle of building muscle.
I'm glad you cleared that up.
Not a steroid cycle. You know, they've got into shape, and for whatever reason, they just want to like maintain this leanness year round, which I think for many people is the goal. Like, you know, they just want to stay lean year round. There has to come an acceptance there that physique wise, they won't build much, or they won't actually change their shape. Like if they're saying like they've got lean and now they want to build their glutes and shape their arms and all these sorts of things, the sad fact is you have to actually go through a period of embracing the fluff if you want to do all those things. If you want to just get into shape and you're completely happy with how you look, then yeah, great. You know, build a lifestyle that allows you to stay at that body weight or a range of 1 or 2 kilos year round, and you're set. If you actually want to make changes to your physique and you want to get stronger and all these sorts of things, the reality is you actually have to have to have a little bit of body fat. Even if you want to get really, really strong, like there's benefits to being, you know, to being in a good surplus and the other benefits that come with it. But there has to be that acceptance that you're going to have to gain a little bit of body fat. So the only time you should actually just want to stay lean is if you're completely happy with where you got to. And these sorts of situations come where, you know, you may have been very, very overweight in the past, or you may be like in your 50s and you have no real goals to build like serious amounts of muscle or whatever it is. If you're completely happy with how you look now, then, you know, just build a lifestyle around it. But if you want to make changes, you have to accept that you're gonna have to go into a little bit of a surplus. You have to stay in a surplus for a while. You may gain some body fat, but it's all done. If it's all done controlled, that's okay. It's just the reality of body composition and physiology.
Yeah, and there's no set way you have to do it. Like you kind of touched on it. You just need to make sure that your expectations are in line with what you want to do. If you have lost vast amount of weight and you finally got to a point where you feel happy with how you look, then there isn't necessarily a rush to build loads of muscle or to increase body fat a little bit. You might just want to spend that time enjoying how you look now, embedding the new behaviors, and getting used to this new physique for a little while. However, if you want to build muscle at an optimum rate, you're going to have to find somewhere along that spectrum where you can then balance the rate of muscle gain that you're happy with, also with how you're looking, the amount of food you want to be eating, the lifestyle you want. And this is where it's a continuum. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. You just need to find out where you sit on that, where all of these things are balanced at a level that you want. Because ultimately, you're not going to be able to stay at the leanness you are at your checkpoint and still build muscle at an optimum rate. And so you just need to balance those things up and find where you want to be. Because I think you actually touched on it earlier, Ivan. You can increase your rate of weight gain, and rate of muscle growth will increase with that to a point, as will fat gain. But then there will be a point where you max out that potential of muscle gain, and any more an increase in your rate of weight gain from there on will just be adding fat. So there is definitely a top end to it, but within that range, it comes totally down to you and what you're happy with.
Yeah.
The range is probably it's literally anywhere from 0% a month up to 2% a month. So if you just want to stay completely lean, aim for 0% a month, which is nothing. But you can be as low as 0.1, 2, 3. Like if you really want to take it slow, I'd recommend 0.5 if you actually want to make some sort of progress. But 0.5% a month, which isn't actually that much. If you're 160 pounds, that's what, 0.8 of a pound. which is
Yeah.
barely anything.
As
0.2 kilos.
it's more about the logbook.
Yeah.
It's more about what your logbook is doing. You know, let scale weight be a byproduct. That's fantastic. But the aim shouldn't be to gain half a kilo or a kilo a month. The gain should be to progress in your logbook. And then there will come a point where you cannot continue progressing in your logbook without gaining weight. You know what I mean? But the opposite can happen. So if you're just focusing on performance and you've been hitting a plateau and your weight's been like stable for a while, then that is probably your cue to be like, okay, I need more food. You know what I mean? You don't have to just keep adding more and more food, thinking that you just have to do like a dreamer bulk. Because again, we're still using the logbook, we're still using performance to guide you through this investment phase. The weight gain is a byproduct. The main goal should be to perform on your main lifts and get those numbers up. Okay, you can't just continue building those numbers up without getting heavier. You know what I mean? It can't happen. So the scale weight will come up. Just focus on the numbers in the gym and your food, and you'll be fine.
And we're big proponents of longer investment phases. Minimum 12 months, ideally looking close towards the 24-month, due to, as we've said earlier, muscle gain being a slower process than fat loss. And so with that in mind, although we're talking about weight gain, if you're looking at the faster end, say at the 2% per month, if you're doing a two-year investment phase, that doesn't mean you need to gain 2% every single month. And like Ivan says, get into a range in which you are stronger, you're feeling good, and then milk that weight. Progress your lifts as much as you can. Once things then start to slow down, or if your body weight starts to just slowly drop at that weight, then you can just add in some more calories and then start to move things up. Because ultimately you want to be getting to that 15 to 20%. These are rough guidelines, but for above that checkpoint weight. And then either by the end of those 2 years or getting there and then holding in around that. There's no need to get to that after 6 months and then go up to 30%, 40% above checkpoint weight. Because then, like we said, you are just getting fat at that point.
Yeah. Ivan, I'd love to see you in a heavy bulk mode.
Yeah.
You know what, man? It's just like I was thinking about it, but I was like, for everything I do, it just would be a disadvantage. You know what I mean? Like, I think if anything, my squat and deadlift would improve so much. You know what I mean? Like that would, but I don't care for those numbers at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, I care about sliding my legs back in from a side split, or or all the way up, or doing iron cross, or doing like ring work and all that, and it helps being lighter. You know what I mean? But even then, like, you don't want to just become emaciated for that stuff, because then you lose strength. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very delicate act, finding, the calories to sort of maintain where you're at while still performing well without gaining unnecessary body weight. You know what I mean? Because there is a point, even for myself, there is a point where if I get too lean, I don't feel great. You know what I mean? Everyone does. Everyone's got that point, right? And there's no need for me to be feeling that way ever, because I'm not competing. And I advocate that to anyone, unless you have like a photo shoot, or unless you're striving towards something that is going to allow you to reverse out of it. There is no need for you to always be hungry, low energy, low libido, all these things that come with being too lean. If that is your day to day and you don't have a photo shoot in like coming up, or if you don't have an event coming up, you need to address that, and you need to get out of that, because you are not doing anything in that state productive, hands down. So, but yeah, if I was to do a full bulk, I don't know, man. Not for me, I don't think. Like, even like if I have like one refeed day, I'm like, oh, I'm done. Getting back to like my maintenance calories. Like I think that would be the hardest for me, is just like committing to like heaps of food every day.
I mean, Ed, you're going after it, aren't you? You're pounding like, how much food are you doing at the moment?
It was very high. I've basically, a good example of what I was just saying, is kind of hit a high end of where my body weight needs to be right now, and so I'm just trying to kind of sit here and just milk the weights at the moment. I've back in the gym recently after lockdown, but things are all moving in the right direction in terms of my lift. So I'm just going to hold where I'm at now, and make sure I'm getting stronger at this weight, and in time I'll look better at this weight before pushing on again. So I pull my food back slightly just to reduce my rate of gain. I'm holding at more of a maintenance level now. So it's made getting the food in a bit easier for sure. But no, I look back over the last year of an investment, I've pushed food higher than I ever have in the past, which is, you know, a part of it. If you want to increase your body weight, then you need to be eating in a surplus. However, a touch on that, a surplus doesn't mean 5,000 calories above your maintenance. You know, find the rate of weight gain that you want, and then you can adapt the surplus to make sure you're gaining at that rate.
So, boys, this is the last episode before Christmas. Have you guys put are you gonna put grapefruit oil on your wish list?
I don't know if I can wait till Christmas to get the benefits of that. I might do it as a pre-Christmas meal.
Yeah.
My mum will be sitting next to me at the table thinking, "What's that smell of grapefruit?"
It will probably make you not store any of that food as excess body fat, though. So
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And it helps with satiety as well, doesn't it? So you might not even be hungry for the meal.
Yeah. So you won't eat, but they actually had a bit on there. Just to finish up on this, they actually had a bit, I think, on eating and how to eat without storing the body fat. So let's just finish up with they got
chew and then spit it back out. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
Just stare at the food.
So this is called Christmas satiating by numbers.
That was too easy for them.
Yeah, Chris Maths. Let's get one thing straight. This is not the season for saintly restraint or meticulous macro counting, but in the year-long pursuit of better health, knowledge is power. And a little goes a long way. Know what's on your plate, and you can ensure the choices you make are delivering maximum pleasure with minimum fallout. Here's your guide to winning the numbers game. And then they've literally put all the different food things there and just listed out the calories. So yeah, just more.
Well, so they just fill pages by telling you the calories in the foods, like Brussels sprouts.
Yeah,
like that's not a trick.
I thought it would be something game changing, but nothing came out of it. Yeah, it's got stuff like this that if you love macadamia nuts, by all means eat them, but don't force yourself to because you feel like you should. Gram for gram, chocolate have a fairly equal calorie count. Just because, that's actually a good point, actually. Just because the food is healthy, don't eat it. But yeah, win the Chris Maths game. Put grapefruit oil on your stomach, and do your pull-ups and push-ups for extra 4 inches, and
get involved in the arms race.
Get involved in the arms race. Brilliant.